Hello again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave and in this video I'm going to be talking about 6 chords. 6 chords basically are triads with an added 6th degree. If you're not familiar with the theory behind chord construction, there's some other tutorials I've done before on the channel. If you have a look at the playlist called Music Theory, there's loads of videos in there about scale theory, chord theory and so on. So if you have a look at something about building triads, basically give yourself the foundation. If you are familiar with theory behind how triads are built, let's crack on and talk about 6 chords. Now when we built triads, what we really did was just take alternate degrees from a scale. So if I think about, say, a C major scale, we take the 1st, 3rd and the 5th degrees, we put those together and that gives us a C major triad. Triad, tri meaning 3, it's a chord with 3 notes in it, or 3 degrees. And we can do that on every degree of the scale, so we end up with C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, or B minor flat 5, and then that gets us back up to C major again. So that's the C major scale harmonised out in triads. And when we talk about 6 chords, basically all we're doing is we're just adding a 6th degree to that. So if we look at the key of C major here, harmonised out in triads, we'll see all the notes involved, and add in a 6th degree and we get this. Now you'll notice in some cases we're adding a flat 6th degree rather than a 6. And the reason for that is the same reason that some of those 3rd degrees are flat 3 rather than a natural 3. It's because we can only use notes that are diatonic to the key of C major. The only notes we've got to play with here are C, D, E, F, G, A and B. Look at that 3rd chord for example. We've got E, G, B and D. We've already taken the 3rd degree and lowered it by a semitone to a flat 3rd because the 3rd degree of E is G sharp. G sharp's not diatonic with the key of C major, so we lower it from G sharp to G, gives us a flat 3rd. And it's the same story on the 6th degree. The 6th degree of E is C sharp. C sharp's not diatonic with the key of C major. If we lower it by a semitone, we get D. That is, so what we've got there is a flat 6th degree. Compare that to the 2nd chord here. We've got D minor 6. We can get away with using a natural 6th here because the 6th degree of D is B and B is diatonic to the key of C major, so we don't have to make any alterations there. So for all we've got minor triads on the 2nd and the 3rd degree, one of them gets a minor 6th chord and the other one gets a minor flat 6, just to keep it all diatonic, and you can see how that works out right the way across the key. Right, so that's the theory. Let's look at how we can actually play these chords. And the best place to start really is with a chord shape that you already know, and then look for ways you can adapt it, add in notes, and find ways that you can do it. It keeps the fingering manageable. You're not going to really get yourself into trouble and do odd stretches or things like that. So in the key of C major, so how about we start with like a C bar chord, this one here. What we can do, we're looking for a 6th degree, and the 6th degree of C major is A, and there's an A here at the 5th fret on the top E string, so I could play the shape like this. Bring my little finger down onto there. I mean, I could just play it just with a bar across all 4 strings, but the reason I sort of chose to play it with the bar like this and then adding in my little finger is so I can compare and contrast the sound of the 2 chords. So that's a C major chord, and that's a C major 6. So yeah, different voice to it. It's still fundamentally a major chord because it's built on the major triad, but it has got its own distinctive voice. Now an interesting thing you might have noticed there as I was moving between the 2 chords is you would have heard possibly a familiar pattern, because it's a mainstay of blues and rock music, is the transition between a major chord and a major 6, like this. should sound really familiar to you. Now, if you've studied chord theory before, hopefully this is making sense. If you've studied quite a lot of chord theory before, you might have come across extended chords. And if you have, you might be a bit puzzled now why we're referring to the 6th degree as a 6 and not as 13. Because usually when we're referring to either the 2nd, the 4th or the 6th degree of a scale in context of a chord, we call it 9, an 11 or a 13. That's when we're talking about extended chords. Basically, an extended chord is where you've taken the triad, added 7th degree to give us a 7 chord, and then we keep adding degrees in. So we keep adding notes in, going beyond the octave. So we've got 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 when we add a 2 beyond the octave, 11 when we add the 4 beyond the octave, and then 13 when we add the 6th beyond the octave. Here we're only adding notes to triads, so it's not an extended chord because we haven't got that 7th degree, which is why we call it a 6 rather than a 13. Can get a bit confusing sometimes, but if you kind of just sit back and think about it, it does kind of make sense. There's a quick look at 6 chords then, basically triads with an added 6th degree. Why would you play 6 chords? Well, you would play them because they sound like 6 chords. They sound different. They sound a bit more harmonically interesting than basic triads. They've got a different voice to them to like a major chord. You know, for example, we're looking at C major like that. It's a C major. It's a C major 6. That's a C major 7. 3 different types of chord, all based on a C triad, but with different sounds. And that's what 6 chords give you. They give you the 6 chord kind of tonality. And the better your chord vocabulary, the more chords you know, the more different sounds you know. And as long as you understand the theory that you're playing in the key of, say, C major, you could play C major, you can play C major 7, you can play C major 6, and all the extensions and so on. And then on every degree, so on the 2nd degree of C major, you've got a D minor chord. You could play D minor 7. You could also play D minor 6, D sus 4. Same thing on E. But like I said, sometimes you'll be using minor 6. Sometimes you'll be using a minor flat 6, just depending on how the notes harmonise. It still gives you the underlying sound of the harmony of the key, but because you're using different types of chords, you get different types of sounds, and it just makes your compositions a bit more interesting. And if you're playing you get given a chord progression. Say you're jamming with somebody, and they give you a chord progression. Say, okay, let's play that. You play the chords, and I'll jam over the top of it. If you just sit and you're playing exactly the same chords over and over and over again, it's going to get very boring for you. It's going to get very boring for the listener. It's going to get very boring for the guy who's playing solo over the top of your chords. But if you can look at the chords you've got at your disposal and say, well, right, okay, rather than just playing straight triads here, I'm going to play 7 chords, or I'm going to play 6 chords, or whatever. It just adds more interest to what you're playing. It gives you more for the lead line to bounce off of, and for the underlying chords and the melody to kind of play off against each other, and all that interplay just makes it much more interesting. So having a good chord vocabulary is useful. 6 chords are a useful type of chord to have in that vocabulary. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, please click like down there. If you really enjoyed it, please click subscribe, and you'll be notified of any other videos that I post onto the channel. If you want to leave a comment down there in the comments section, you're welcome to, but to be honest, I don't always see those comments. So if there's something specifically you want to ask me, whether it's about music theory, guitar playing, guitar equipment, anything like that, something you want me to cover in a future video, it's probably better if you go here, fill in a form, send your question in, that comes direct to me, and it won't get lost in the comments section, and I'll try and get around to answering it in a future video. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video next time. Bye for now.